Welcome to the Explainer. So glad you're here. Because today, we're diving into a situation that is literally rewriting the rules of global supply chains. We're talking about the crazy intersection of international geopolitics, cross-border waste management, and edge AI. I know, it sounds like a wild mix, right? But stick with me. By the time we're done, you're going to see exactly how a platform called the 905 Wood Digital Refinery is stepping in to solve a massive, real-world crisis involving trade wars and, well, trash. Let's get into it.
So here's the billion-dollar question we're unpacking today. What actually happens when an international border threatens to slam shut on millions of tons of trash? And maybe more importantly, how on earth does a standard, everyday smartphone manage to de-escalate a multi-billion-dollar trade war? We're watching a huge logistical nightmare unfold in real time between Ontario, Canada, and the US. And the hyperlocal, totally unexpected tech solution to this, it's going to blow your mind. Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap. First, we'll look at the transboundary waste corridor, then tariffs and the capacity cliff. After that, we'll check out the sentient bridge solution and wrap up with the compliance firewall.
Starting off with Part 1, the transboundary waste corridor.
3.46 million. Just take a second to wrap your head around that number. That is the amount, in tons, of municipal solid waste that Ontario ships across the Ambassador and Blue Water bridges into the US every single year. To put that into perspective, you're looking at more than 200 tractor trailers making that drive every weekday. For over 15 years, this massive flow of industrial and commercial trash was just business as usual. It's a volume so huge that it's literally shaped the waste infrastructure on both sides of the border. Now, what's really fascinating here is the dependency this creates. Michigan takes in over 4 million tons of imported waste overall, and a huge chunk of that is coming straight from Canada. In fact, Canadian municipal solid waste makes up a staggering 14.35% of all the waste buried in Michigan landfills. So Michigan really relies on processing this material. And Ontario? Well, Ontario is completely dependent on Michigan actually having the space and the willingness to take it. It's a symbiotic, albeit messy relationship.
So why did this giant trash corridor even form? It all boils down to basic economic arbitrage. Honestly, it's just way cheaper. Over in Toronto, landfill tipping fees have absolutely skyrocketed to nearly $190 a ton, mostly because they're running out of space and facing strict regulations. But just across the border in Michigan, historically, the state levy disposal fees were sitting at a measly 36 cents per ton. 36 cents. So for Ontario municipalities and haulers, putting trash on a truck and driving it across an international border has been vastly cheaper than burying it at home. But that economic reality is hitting a brick wall.
Which brings us to Part 2, tariffs and the capacity cliff.
Let's look at how fast things escalated geopolitically in July 2026. On July 1st, Washington decided not to extend the USMCA trilaterally, which triggered this big period of uncertainty. Then on July 20th, President Trump signed Section 338 orders slapping 50% tariffs on a whole bunch of Canadian goods. The fallout was immediate. By July 24th, Canada canceled the trilateral celebration for the Gordie Howe Bridge, and Ontario Premier Doug Ford was out there calling for dollar-for-dollar tariff retaliation. Without taking any sides here, the reality on the ground is that this intense friction put every cross-border industry, especially waste management, right in the crosshairs.
But tariffs are actually only half the headache. The other half is what experts are calling the capacity cliff. Over in Michigan, Senate Bill 246 proposes jacking up state solid waste surcharges to up to $5 a ton, specifically to stop out-of-state dumping. Meanwhile, Ontario's own domestic landfills, they're projected to be totally full by 2034, completely maxed out. So you combine the threat of 50% trade tariffs from Washington with these soaring local fees and that cheap cost arbitrage that built this corridor, it's evaporating. Ontario is running out of space, and its main escape hatch to Michigan landfills is slamming shut.
Enter Part 3, the sentient bridge solution.
So the crucial point is how this company, 905 Wood, completely reframed the issue. They realized this isn't a geographic problem, it's actually a classification problem. Think about it. A mixed contaminated load of garbage gets taxed, tariffed, and buried. It's trash. But if you can definitively prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that the load is clean, high-purity wood, well, it's not trash anymore. It becomes biocarbon feedstock. It's a valuable manufacturing input that gets to travel in a totally different, tariff-exempt lane. 905 Wood built their 6-layer digital refinery to act as a sentient bridge to manufacture exactly that proof, connecting chaotic construction waste straight to high-purity markets.
And the craziest part is the hardware they use at the very first layer. They aren't relying on some massive remote server farm. The field operators are literally using a standard Google Pixel 10 Pro running Android 16. Under the hood, it's utilizing the Tensor G5 neural processing unit and Google's LiteRT AI stack to run a 2.3 billion parameter Gemma 4 vision model locally. The brainpower isn't in a cloud halfway across the country. It is physically right there on the microchip in the operator's hand, staring at the construction bin before the truck even turns its engine on.
The speed of this edge AI is absolutely mind-blowing. It classifies the wood, separating the clean dimensional lumber from the nasty chemically treated or painted stuff in under 500 milliseconds. That's faster than you can blink. And because the whole model runs natively on the device, it does this entirely offline. Zero cellular signal required, none. It even has a built-in consensus check. If it sees some ambiguous, weathered gray pine that might be hiding toxic pressure treatments, a secondary model steps in as a visual fallacy guard to reject it and prevent any contamination. It's like having an expert inspector in your pocket.
This brings us to a quote from our source material that just hits the nail on the head. The AI's real job isn't sorting wood, it's notarizing it, right? That is the big aha moment for us today. This technology isn't just saying, hey, this looks like pine. It's locking in that identification as a verifiable, immutable fact. It's taking a messy, physical sorting job and turning it into an irrefutable legal instrument.
Let's move to part 4, the compliance firewall.
So how does this actually translate into something that shields the material from trade wars? It's all built into a super slick 4-step workflow inside the digital refinery application. Step 1 is the request for quote, where they digitally scope and schedule the load. Step 2, right after the AI classifies the wood, the system automatically generates a USMCA and CUSMA certificate of origin. Step 3 is verification against strict environmental laws. And finally, Step 4 spits out the compliance output, a court-ready, heavily encrypted PDF document.
That resulting PDF, it acts as a literal firewall at the border. If you're hauling standard contaminated municipal solid waste, you fall straight into the trap of those Section 338 tariffs and Michigan's fee hikes. You're getting taxed and tariffed. But the digital refinery's paperwork officially reclassifies this clean wood under Harmonized System Code 3825.0. It makes the airtight legal case that this load is a wholly obtained residual feedstock. Basically, it's not a taxed wood product. It's an exempt manufacturing input. So while other haulers are stuck paying massive fees or getting frozen at customs, this load just breezes right on through in a protected lane.
Now, you and I both know that customs auditors don't care about our opinions. They want hard proof. And the digital refinery delivers what they call explainable compliance. It automatically checks the load against Ontario Regulation 347 limits, making sure it's way below the toxic leachate limits for nasty stuff like arsenic, lead, and chromium. But here's the real kicker. The exact lineage of the AI's decision, the model version, the exact GPS coordinates, the timestamp, even the cryptographic kernel hash is permanently frozen into Vertex ML metadata right there on the PDF. It gives regulators the sensor-backed, cryptographic proof they demand, completely removing human error and, frankly, human tampering from the whole equation.
And this brilliantly illustrates the financial upside of getting this right. $2,721, that's the resulting carbon dividend generated per 144-yard walking floor mothership trailer. Because the load is provably pure, it perfectly matches the strict requirements of the advanced biocarbon market. By bypassing the landfill and mathematically proving the material's purity, this system doesn't just avoid those punishing trade war tariffs, it actively generates massive new revenue through carbon offset registries. By operationalizing this specific AI stack, 905 Wood is securing Ontario's industrial leadership in the global circular bioeconomy. They're literally turning a costly, highly taxed liability into a super profitable asset.
Which leaves us with this final kind of provocative thought to chew on. If a standard smartphone, armed with edge AI and a brilliant workflow, can untangle a massive geopolitical waste crisis, dodge trade war tariffs, and secure a region's leadership in the circular bioeconomy, what other chaotic, undocumented global supply chains are just waiting to be disrupted? The Ontario-Michigan corridor is really just the beginning. 905 Wood is proving that the future of international trade compliance isn't going to be fought in some massive data center somewhere. It's going to be won right out at the edge, literally in the palm of a field worker's hand. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on The Explainer today, and keep questioning how this incredible tech is reshaping the world around us. See you next time.